I'm just gonna play some guitar and watch some news. Just do some warming up.
Meaning relocated for screening by Russian troops. That's according to an advisor to Mariupol's mayor. 200 miles to the north, Russian shelling in Kharkiv has killed at least 5 civilians and wounded 15 others. CNN's Matt Rivers joins me now from Lviv in western Ukraine. And Matt, we understand that you had a series of missile strikes there a short time ago after a bit of a break. But what can you tell us?
Yeah, we were over by air raid sirens this morning, and it was right around 8 a.m., maybe a little after local time here, that Ukrainian officials say at least 4 different missile strikes struck across Lviv. 3 of them, we're told, were hitting military infrastructure. The 4th, which is a scene that we actually just visited, was just a tire repair shop. It was a civilian location. We're not actually allowed to broadcast live from there right now due to Ukrainian military restrictions. At least 6 people killed, at least 11 injured, and yet what we are seeing in Lviv.
I wonder why they feel inclined to report on this out of all the things going on in the world. They're showing the same stuff over and over and over, the same videos. The drone videos of buildings blown up, stuff like that. Ukrainian forces in Mariupol reject Russian order to surrender. That's what they're fighting. That's what war is. There's wars all over the country, or all over the world, rather. There's war in Yemen. There's wars in Africa. They call them terrorist groups and stuff, but like France is down fighting against groups in Africa. I think like Somalian groups and Al-Shabaab. So, I mean, they can cover wars all over the world if they want. I don't know why they're covering this one so much right now. Probably because it has to do with Europe. Yeah, because they've, you know what I mean? There's been devastating wars in countries all over the world for a long time. But they're zeroing in on this one right now, as if there aren't any other ones. Yemen is another one. Saudi Arabia is fighting Yemen. And the same sort of thing is happening, I think, because Saudi has purchased U.S. weapons and they're a U.S. ally. And Yemen is aligned with Iran. Or at least the people fighting it, or some of them. I wonder why, we probably aren't. The U.S. feels more connected to Europe and shares more viewership and has sister stations over there and whatever, and so probably it's easy for them to promote and control the info on these together and profit off of the coverage. More so there than Yemen or Africa. Africa might be more secretive operations, and they wouldn't let people really report as much, and it's not displacing a lot of people sometimes. That's not the case so much in Yemen, I think. Over the years, And there's just a couple places. There's plenty others. Sadly, I think that might lead to some coverage. Conflicts and issues. Russian forces control most of the Ukraine, 5 killed in renewed rocket attacks in Kharkiv. In the past, I said maybe a decade ago, I got the feeling that they want to know who feels what about everything. The government and the powers that be want to know who's on whose side, who's going to support who, financially and otherwise. And just watching a broadcast You could gauge emotions on it if they look closely enough. And a lot of people voice how they feel anyway. Change the channel because these people just want to promote this more. That's the feeling that I'm getting on CNN. I just switched it to Fox. It says the fentanyl war, and then it showed their logo and they went to commercial. Now this is Rolf Sanchez in Lviv, Ukraine. Stuff Canadian local time. MSNBC.
But the final toll may be much, much higher than that. There is almost no food. People have been drinking filthy water to survive.
Yeah, they're showing a map.
And an advisor to the mayor is saying
That's pretty much exactly what I would imagine Russia would want.
No one allowed in, no one allowed out. Men
The land that they're occupying right now.
being interrogated. They're having their phones searched. And this advisor claiming that 1 in 10 of them is being sent to the
A few weeks ago, they showed that they had half of the Donbass region. They had most of the path to Crimea.
NBC correspondent Rolf Sanchez, please stay safe.
Now it's like they pretty much filled up the spaces.
Ukrainian President Zelensky is once again imploring Western leaders to implement embargoes on Russian oil. In his nightly address yesterday, Zelensky spoke about the need for swifter sanctions against Moscow in response to his latest violent attacks in this country.
I don't need any information from this guy. He's not my president.
Push forward. And so for the Ukrainians, I see fighting unlike they've ever seen before. I think we're going to see more violence. I think we're going to see more bloodshed. I think this is unfortunately because I think they basically have two ability forces, and neither of which is willing to get there. I think
Sorry to interrupt, but when you say that, it's a very ominous thing to say that the Donbass region is going to see things like nothing the Ukrainians have seen in the past 6 weeks of conflict. I mean, they've seen a lot already. So, I mean, what else are you expecting, and do you think that they'll see?
Ukraine won't give up Eastern Territory to Israel. Or then they may just be perpetually fighting around.
They are buoyed by weapon systems that they've never seen before. And so I think we're going to see a situation where there's a very clear will. It is not achieving some sort of military victory. It's not doing just basic military victory. This is where people worry about what Putin thinks of that country. We talk about what a madman theory and what he will create ultimately. But for Putin to looking forward, this is critical. And so I'm thinking of things like the language and the diplomatic emergencies in the United States when we talk about unpredictable consequences. I'm thinking about the civilian atrocities we've seen and the use of nuclear weapons. All of those things are on the table at this point simply because
It's too bad that countries have to be so polarizing over this, polarized and tribal over this issue. And we don't see it probably.
Hopes that you're wrong on some of these predictions?
Most people don't see it probably because their entire country or most of the people in my country they've been amplified, so the same way.
Coming up, Ukraine's defiant president drawing the line on giving up territory to Russia. Plus, Russian propaganda going across the border despite efforts
No, I should double check France.
First, the stunning
Because
revelation
the poll in France
why Vladimir Putin
showed that, I think it said 53% of French people sympathize with Russia's reasons for invading Ukraine or something to that effect. Basically sided with Russia. This was a few weeks ago too.
Change to open up opportunities for underserved communities. The DoD also announcing support for a variety of programs to help those communities, including American Indian initiatives and environmental efforts. And the state of Illinois is offering free health care to illegal immigrants between the ages of 55 and 64. This coverage includes doctor and hospital visits, lab tests, and services for mental health and substance abuse disorders. Undocumented immigrants and legal permanent residents who've been in the U.S. for less than 5 years now are eligible for the program. The coverage will expand to include illegal immigrants age 42 to 54 come July 1.
drugs have been pouring into our country at the southern border and taking a deadly toll across America. Our next guest is a mother who lost her
Fentanyl pours in the
21-year-old
country
son
from the
to an
border.
accidental fentanyl overdose over a year ago. Jasmine Robinson joins us now. Jasmine, good morning to you. I know that this is an incredibly difficult thing to talk about, but I also know that you're on a mission to warn other parents about the dangers of fentanyl. So if you could, tell us about Jason and what happened to him.
I don't really trust pills from reputable sources. I trust pills from street sales of device.
And it was an accidental
I used to know a
overdose.
chemist.
He didn't know
He made
that he
MDMA.
was taking fentanyl. Can you explain that element of the story and what happened
Probably
there?
should be legal and people could make their own medicine, and then they wouldn't process it into a deadly form, and people wouldn't mix it with deadly things, cut it with deadly stuff. Because you'd have a plant and you could dose yourself. And you wouldn't process it necessarily like this, into this deadly form.
So what is your
You have people
message to
chew the
parents
coca
this morning
leaves
who have
of the coca plant to make
teenagers or
cocaine
young
with.
adults and they're worried that their kids
So you
might
don't
be
have to process
targeted
it
by
with
fentanyl?
white powder. When you process anything, it messes it up. We could process food. It's not good for anything. It's nothing. It's like the unhealthiest food. I think that's the solution to these overdoses and things, is just freeing up the plants and so people could make their own medicines. So buying weird pills from weird people. But you don't know what they do.
It is terrifying, and your message is so critically important because as of this year,
And a lot of people do it. A lot of people do it over and over and over.
pounds of fentanyl has been seized in this country. The DEA also warning that there's going to be a nationwide
There's a lot of the
spike in
sources,
fentanyl
they know where they get it
overdoses.
from, and they're
This
good
drug is
sources.
primarily trafficked
But
through the
not all of
southern
them.
border. Do you think the Biden administration should
There's a
be
lot of
doing
suicides
more
with
to
it,
prevent this?
and a lot of overdoses.
Absolutely. It's not even talked about. I've never heard of fentanyl, like I said before, until the day he died. They said, we suspect it's fentanyl. And I was like, well, what is that? So, I mean, I just think that everyone needs to be aware. I think that they need to start prosecuting
One
some of
goes
these
to
drug dealers that are getting it to the children. Which they haven't started doing that yet where I am. It's just a ton of Washington. So, yeah, there's a lot of work needs to be done.
Yeah, we're unpacking media meltdown with Joe Concha next.
I think he only owns a fraction of it. He probably just wants to make money first and foremost. And he doesn't have total control. He may never. And he knows what his morals are, or what his versions of freedom are exactly. It's probably more liberal than what Twitter does. But when Twitter explains to him all the legal reasons they do all the nonsense they do, he may start to agree with them a little bit.
So the Austrian chancellor added that he believes Putin knows
Because I think mainly the rules are for covering their ass so they don't get sued.
in German.
So he may take a different approach.
That the war ends earlier than later.
Then they might get sued.
CNN's Nada Bashir, live in London with more. So Nada, what exactly does the Austrian chancellor say about concerns that President Putin is going to resort to nuclear weapons?
Well, President Nikos has been a point of concern for weeks and now, but according to Chancellor Nahum, he said that he's too safe for sure whether or not Putin will resort to using some sort of tactical nuclear weapon if he was back into corner. And of course, he also noted that Putin, in his conversation with him, clearly understood the threat that such weapons could pose, but also in particular understood that he could use these weapons to threaten the rest of the world. Clearly, the understanding and memory of how using weapons posed to the Western world. But recently, in the last few weeks, we've heard from Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov. He said that Russia would only resort to using such weapons if there was a threat to the existence of the Russian state. According to one of the final candidate from Peskov, Putin has long held that if Ukraine were to join NATO, that in itself would pose a major security threat to Russia, to the Russian state. And we heard from him in an interview with NBC. Putin was very clear on this. He was clear that he believed that the war was necessary in order to ensure Russia's security guarantees. And as he mentioned that he believes
Kind of just depends on what their objectives are, because they know what will happen if they use a weapon, both to the land and to them.
on his concerns and on his demands, and separately from that, he reiterated the claim
Even if
that
somebody,
from the Kremlin that
even if
Russia
the U.S.
is
responds
carrying out
with a conventional response, that would be pretty overwhelming if somebody uses a nuke on Ukraine.
Stands in contrast to what we're hearing from Western leaders, from Western intelligence.
Some
But of
aggression.
course, over the weekend, we heard from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky warning of what he expects to be an intensification of Russia's military campaign, military invasion in the Donbass region and eastern part of Ukraine. So
Somebody said the U.S. has 800 bases around the world. So I don't know. A lot of people are on the U.S. side, the West side, but it's hard to argue that they're not like encircling Russia, encircling China, and sort of choking off these countries sometimes. With 800 military bases around the world, and the budget that they spend on the military is out of control.
It's important to have confidence in
I wonder deep down how much these countries disagree with them. They may actually have more in common and agree more behind the scenes than these political parties lead on. Because some people profit off the differences in the conflicts. All commercials, every single one of those. Whoa. No way.
Celtics. Jason Tatum's layup.
That was
The buzzer.
That was
Celtics
wow.
win game 1 of their first-round playoff series against the Brooklyn Nets.
The Celtics were 1 point behind, and they got the ball 12 seconds, dribbled down the court, passed it around a few times, and then somebody got it, laid it in with like 0.2 seconds remaining. So, yeah. And they won by 1 point. Yeah. This beautiful pass and lay-in too. It was just boom, boom. Like something they probably worked on. And you can tell people were tired too. People were just kind of dragging.
And, Abraham's expected to be docile, be humble, take the humble approach.
Celtics fan during game one loss. Some fans have it coming. Some other player got ejected from North Carolina and threw something into the fan box. Or maybe it was on purpose, I don't know. You never get the full story about what happened and what they said and throughout the game and the vibe and everything. You just get like a little snapshot of the reaction. And it's usually by some tired athlete that's been screamed at by a lot of people way too many times. It would be pretty intense just having to deal with that day in and day out. Certain fans just hate the guts.
And an immaculate fourth inning of Baltimore. Yankees starter Nestor Cortes retired the Royals on 9 pitches to record the first.
Because you can kind of influence a sporting event if you're real loud and obnoxious. You can get people kind of off their game. Especially if you do it in unison. If you like maybe got the home team and you're screaming and yelling against the away team. It's real loud. In football, they can't make audibles as well as super loud.
The Boston Red Sox, now tied for first place, will look to take 3 out of 4 games to the Minnesota Twins as they wrap up their series at Fenway Park this morning. It's Marathon Day in Boston.
Boston Red Sox have played about multiple vaccine players throughout this year.
First pitch at Fenway. But the Red Sox have this game, and then like Toronto, short-handed against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Manager Alex Cora confirmed the team expects to give up no unvaccinated players for the series in Toronto. The Canadian government requires a second dose Johnson & Johnson vaccine at least 14 days prior to entry. Then it comes to Tanner Houck and Florida possible that he is not vaccinated against COVID-19 and therefore not be able to play during the 3-game series that begins tomorrow.
Oh, is that the point?
Players sidelined by COVID-19 vaccine issues
That's
are
crazy.
not paid and do not accrue original service time while on the restricted list. This is going to be an issue for teams all year long. The Oakland Athletics placed 3 players on the restricted list for their series in Toronto this past weekend. The Yankees,
Wow.
when they've had up their win this year, expect to be without Aaron Judge and other.
If I'm not mistaken, they're saying Toronto makes everybody vaccinated in their country, and so when our players go over there to play, a few of them are vaccinated on every team, and those players can't play, is what they're saying, I think. That's out of control.
My weekend was fantastic, but people are going to like what I have to say. But you did mention the Boston Marathon, and they're going to sneak that in with some great.
He may not even be allowed to enter the country, actually.
But then the rain and maybe even some snow moves into the Northeast this evening. Let's talk about it. We have 2 storms that are going to combine into one. This is all looking to be like a nor'easter type scenario, more like a March storm than an April storm. Already snowing in Chicago. We have snow in northern Indiana. It's snowing in Michigan. And this mess is all heading for the Northeast today. Heavy rain from the Carolinas into Virginia, 8 a.m. this morning. So not a good morning commute around Charlotte into Raleigh. Eventually the rain was into D.C. by the middle of the day. The rain will hold off in New York City until about 6 p.m. But all that blue in central Pennsylvania, western New York, and southern New York, that is all snow. But it's going to be a heavy, wet snow. And it's been a warm early spring. And so we do have some leaves and buds on the trees in areas, especially in the southern tier of New York and northern Pennsylvania. Those are the areas that we're most concerned with. This isn't just a little snowstorm. We have the potential for 6 to 8, maybe even 10 inches of snow from Scranton to Binghamton to Holy Island. That's going to be the Adirondacks and the Catskills will be nailed by this snowstorm. So, Jonathan, it's going to be an ugly Monday night and Tuesday in the Northeast. My apologies early. It's going to be some ugly picture tomorrow on this one. Snow, day. messages relating to January 6th. We'll dig into new reporting about how two former lawmakers and allies of Donald Trump lobbied the former president's chief of staff to overturn the 2020 election. We're back in just a minute. You're all the way into your
Weather.
Tuesday, so right
Weather,
along
weather.
the coast, that's going to be nothing but rain, but for interior
Bring off
areas,
the
that is
coast,
snowfall.
East Coast,
At times, this could be a whole lot of
cold
snowfall.
up through
Snow yet to come. Some of these
Pennsylvania,
interior areas, yeah,
New York.
there you go, Todd. That's what I was waiting for. Maybe a foot of snow in upstate New York. So
New
a
Hampshire,
really big snow event happening today into Tuesday. So tonight, a bit of a mess. A lot of wind up and down the coast. This is going to be some real winter weather. Again, right along the coastline. So D.C. and New York and Boston, just rain. But if you're in the interior, my snowblower this weekend. There's no snow coming. Oh, my snow slips away. The snowblower will drain the gas. That gas is out of my car. Because gas is expensive. So the clock selling gold these days. So we won't see you tomorrow. There's a nice day.
I don't think you're a terrible news. You're not junior. You're not on the senior beer market. So get to know you.
Growing number of Latinos in Texas switching from blue to red thanks to the way the White House is handling the border crisis.
It's not fair for folks like my family, folks that I know, that are doing things the right way.
Biden's message is, come on over, we'll help you, you'll get some. We're here for you. They're gonna need the government to survive.
Rachel Campbell Duffy sat down with Hispanic voters in the Lone Star State. She's here to tell us what she learned just months out from the midterm elections.
What, guys? Any of them
commercial portion. No, commercials. Some people say Little Pink Houses is about drugs, like little pink pills. Pretty wild about baseball. I've already had my fantasy league in the first weeks has had like 2 people that couldn't play because of COVID-19. I had to put them on injured reserve
Weekdays 6 to 10 on MSNBC.
and pick up 2 more players. I didn't have to, but they couldn't play, so I might as well. And 2 other people can't play too. I don't know. I forget. One was hit by a pitch. The other one might have been hit by a pitch too. Day to day. There's been some rainouts too.
Welcome back to Way Too Early, just before 5:30 a.m. on the East Coast, 2:30 out West. I'm John.
I found one player who's rained out like 2 to 3 hours before his game and took him out, put another one in.
CNN reporting that 2 Republican lawmakers texted then-President Trump's chief of staff,
Pujols just killed one ball.
encouraging the administration to overturn
Like,
the 2020
upper
election.
part of the middle deck.
A series of texts between Meadows
Walloped
and
it.
Texas Congressman Chip Roy and Utah Senator Mike Lee sent between Election Day
So
and
I started
January
again.
6th show how
Let's
the
get
two
the day off
Trump
today.
supporters were looking to the White House for guidance on how they could ensure Trump would remain president despite having lost.
He's been playing against lefties and smashing them. They sit him against righties sometimes. Opening day, he whiffed on the righty a bunch of times. That's just the thing, I guess. He's got some records he's chasing, so can't sit him out too much if he wants to try to really set some records this last season. I know that's not really what they go for and try to do, but it's his last chance, so it's probably in the back of his mind somewhere.
text
I
or
think he's hit
propositions,
591
those
home
on the
runs.
left or right.
So there's 600 is one milestone.
And then acting in defense
Could also
of the
be 600.
Constitution.
I'll have to see what the next milestone is.
The texts in question.
But I think he's
Joining us
fourth on the
now,
all-time
congressional
list.
reporter at Politico, Nicholas Root.
Somewhere around there.
Nicholas, good morning. You've been following every twist and turn by the January 6th committee. They are not commenting on these next rounds of taxes, not yet. But give us a sense at
That's not interesting to me.
well,
It's the only thing I'm fucking.
on Capitol.
This seems real gossipy and like weird that we're even bothering talking about something weird like this. Report new texts between GOP Meadows.
We know they've already reached out to 3 different Republican lawmakers, Kevin McCarthy, Jim Jordan, and Scott Perry.
It's way too early for just like weird stuff. They're trying very hard to keep the January 6th committee and everything about it in the news until the midterm elections, I think. That's why we gotta hear this story and stuff about January 6th and this committee and every blow by blow, tidbit of whatever, it's breadcrumbs about it for days and days and days on end. Because Democrats want to use this as a black eye against Republican candidates, and in the midterm elections, their candidates are going to use it to say, look, we should replace these people because they voted for this, or they're under investigation, or they said this or did this. Or just this is their party in general, this is what they want, I think. Yeah, I can't imagine them keeping this up for 2 more years until the next general election. I'm sure it'll be in the news. They'll bring it up at some point in the future. But they had a point where every single day they had the words January 6th on the screen for days and days and days and days on end on MSNBC and CNN. It's like as big to them as like COVID and Ukraine. COVID meant pharmaceuticals. And Ukraine means a different audience. A new market. And a war people want to, I think people sometimes tune in for wars, war coverages, because they like seeing things blow up. So these are the options. Texas show GOP lawmakers embracing the big lie. Texas Hispanics discuss top issues from midterms.
The president, Secretary Mayorkas, Kamala Harris, they say that the border is not open. Is the border open?
We can't really go. They're not showing the person asking the questions and the person responding to the questions in the same frame. So they look like they're not actually talking to each other.
Tina, should the president and Kamala Harris come to
It might be the same.
I'm not sure that would make a difference. One thing that I think would make a difference
You can't
is
tell from the phone.
support and growing support
for the
It's a
bipartisan
smaller one. That might have something to do
resolution.
with it. So,
It's time
so instead of
for
shooting all of them at one time, they just
kicking
go
the
back
can
and
down
forth.
the road. Is illegal immigration cheapening citizenship?
Yes, ma'am. It's not fair for folks like my family, folks that I know, that are doing things the right way.
You know, there's a Republican governor of Texas. If they can work with the federal government and totally fix this problem if they can work together and if they know how to fix it. These people are just nuts. They like to make immigration a political issue. Democrats think illegal immigrants are going to come over and vote Democrat, and I think they probably do, especially when there's a Democratic Party in office. But I think Republicans have learned too that some places have conservative immigrants that come through, and that stay with conservative areas. Because Texas is pretty mixed. Democrat and Republican, I think, 50-50-ish. But like, I don't know. There's just a lot of blaming and finger pointing. If the governor was a great governor, he would fix it, not just blame and finger point. I mean, I understand he hates Democrats and Biden's a Democrat, so it's easy, low-hanging fruit for him. But I'd be more impressed with a solution. Even if it's telling Joe Biden what to do in your state, which I think they do give him money to help secure the border. And he can probably apply for more money if they need more money. If he has issues and things he's got to do to keep people safe in the United States. They'll help him out. Because these people don't just stay in Texas, they go wherever they want. So there's really no point in just bickering and finger pointing. Or shipping in Washington, D.C. I don't think that's very helpful either. That was just ridiculous.
Time the AOC said that Texas is going to fling blue. Doesn't look like that's the case. No, not at all. Turns out if you open your border, you invite the cartels and all the problems into those southern border states, into Texas. You defund police, you ruin schools, you do indoctrination about transgender, and you really
Not too long ago.
everything that they value.
Not saying the Seco.
They don't really want to
Which we don't want
Also, a bunch of white liberal society
those locales.
I mean,
The cartels up in there.
you're now rednecks. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and no one calls themselves rednecks in the Hispanic community. Only white liberals call people rednecks. We actually believe in our feminine and masculine. Go figure. You know, I love what that one woman said. She was wearing the pink dress, sitting in the top left Carolina. Yeah, and she was saying, you know, the Biden administration's message all along has been, come here, we want to welcome you in and then help you. And these people do need help. So those are government programs, and then it turns into something that looks very similar to socialism.
Yeah, I
And she
mean,
would know because she
people don't get away with breaking the law in the United States. That doesn't.
You
You can give them a label and call them a cartel or whatever, but break the law, you're caught, you're in jail. Mexico, you can't control it in Mexico.
They want to work. They're the hardest working, and they are the greatest demographic for small business.
But I've been to Mexico a lot of times, and
They're
I
not
never
happy
saw
with
any
that.
cartels.
It's golden opportunity
I
to
would
get rid
obviously
of for the
all
Republican
been
Party
safe.
if they move in there.
And
Well, you did such a great job with AG. You asked all the right questions.
And you come into contact with police and federales.
Hispanics with a lot of really good opinions as
And I
well.
was
Really,
treated
y'all,
fairly.
thank you for joining us on Fox and Friends. On Fox and Friends, yes. Thanks for having me, guys.
We finally know how.
And I've heard all the horror stories. You know, growing up and seeing that everybody talks about it.
The numbers are alarming. That's not the only border.
What they say sometimes sounds horrible. The child trafficking and stuff, and drugs, except for weed. Who cares? But other weird drugs.
Crime, migrants at the border. What can President Joe Biden do to fix them? And the unbelievable true story of the man who took on Putin and lived to expose the truth. The Sundance Award-winning CNN film Navalny airs Sunday at 9 p.m.
the drugs, but the drugs like
Why does
inflation comes from the Big Mac.
Well, a lot of it is labor costs. I mean, you know, just going back to our first
Just
story,
the importance
people
of
who want
time.
to have higher wages, companies
Big
are
Mac
saying
without
we can't
bacon.
afford to
So
pay you more unless we raise prices. And so states where minimum wages are going up, you're seeing the
Wow, how
price of
funny.
Big Mac also going up as well.
I haven't eaten meat or food,
Okay, Maxios, thank you so
fast
much for
food,
being
or
here
food that's
today.
not organic
Still
in about
ahead,
10 years.
to Russia's actions in Ukraine, where Moscow is spot with 4 other nations that the United States has designated as
Feed us
suspicious
a
as
vegetarian,
sponsors
too.
of terrorism. That would be a
I
big
want
deal for
organic and
both
vegetarian at the
nations.
same time.
Wade Terrell is coming right back with that story.
About 10 years ago. Last thing I switched to organic was coffee and stuff. So at the beginning of 2012, I still drank some Starbucks coffee and McDonald's coffee, I think. And then I ended up giving that up. It was tough because Starbucks didn't have organic coffee brewed. It didn't matter McDonald's because I could just sit there either way. But in Long Beach, I had to get them. They brewed specially for me. It was pretty crazy. But every morning they would brew for me like a special French roast of Yukon blend organic coffee that they had like up in a bag somewhere. If they didn't brew for anybody else, they just threw it out. That's pretty stoked. They have another one called the Serengeti blend that's organic, but that's one that's kind of hard to find. This Starbucks. Yeah. So it was pretty good. It was pretty good. It was kind of elaborate, and I was kind of just, oh my god, that's how you gotta make my coffee. Everybody else had like cups and normal looking stuff, and I had this big French press, and they would hand it to me, and I'd give it back to them when I was there. This was before COVID times. I don't know what they would do now exactly. Yukon blend's not real good. It's a Sumatra blend. And Sumatra coffees taste really bad to me. I think it has something to do with just the soil and how maybe crustaceans or something have died in this soil for a long, long time. I don't think that's a good soil for making coffee beans, Sumatra. They all taste like bud. CNN's that promoting a guy named Navalny in their advertising. I think they're doing a 1 hour special on the guy. His case sounds tragic, even maybe worse than Assange or just the same level. But Russia's, but it sounds like they poisoned him and imprisoned him just for
Inflation,
journalism,
migrants at the southern
pretty much.
border, rising crime, the
Whistleblower.
coronavirus pandemic. I mean, those are just some of the big problems that the U.S. is currently facing, and problems that are weighing down President Biden's political standing. The most recent CNN poll pegged Mr.
I
Biden's
just probably
approval
can't
at
do much of songs. They're never
49%.
seen proof for
So the
10%
question
this
is, what can the president do to fix any of these problems? So let's bring in CNN White House correspondent John Harwood. Good morning, John. So, what do you think? Is there anything that President Biden can do to fix these mounting issues?
Well, there's small things he can do, small steps he can make, but it's in the nature of the American system to, when things go wrong, people look to the White House and say, what can the president do about it? Sometimes there's not very much he can do about it. Now, in
Biden faces problems compared to
some of the inflation that we're now experiencing. Countries around the world are experiencing inflation that's higher here.
The problem is that he can't solve it. Ones that have taken a long time to get to this point,
do about it right now? The answer
and
is
we can
not very
start
much.
solving
That's the
them,
Federal Reserve's
put us on the
job
right
to
path,
try to
take
tackle
some
that
first
by
steps.
raising interest rates. But it's kind of out
But
of
he might not be
Biden's
able
hands.
to do
And so
everything.
when we get these monthly
Might be kind of a shock
economic
if he
reports,
did
and people
everything
say,
that
look,
needs to be done.
highest inflation in 40
Things
years.
have to change so
And ask
drastically
the
across
White
the
House
board.
about it. They don't have particularly good answers.
I think politicians a lot of times would just prefer somebody else to break the news that things have to change or gonna change. As soon as inflation takes care of that, or business, or something else, they don't gotta break the news to people that, well, life's changing and things cost more, or this is gonna be different.
And now you've got a whole lot of people who want to come
They
in.
leave it up to
And
the businesses,
question
corporations.
How can President Biden deal with that? He's
It's
lifted
few predictable
some
things that they
Trump
do, and then
restrictions,
that
or
forms the future
announcing that he's lifted some Trump
in the way
restrictions.
that
That's likely to increase
they
the
guide it
vote.
or
But
want
that's
it
just an
sometimes.
authority problem that there's not a whole lot the president can do to manage. Same thing with crime. The murder rate spiked during the pandemic for reasons we don't entirely understand. It's continued to go up since then. So if a trend started before Joe Biden became president, it's difficult to pin that on him, and it's difficult to identify what he can do when things are happening in states and cities around the country.
So, John, you say there's not a lot that President Biden can do right now to fix these issues, but he can do something about messaging. And you write that fellow Democrats in the administration could be saved or, salvaged with better messaging, fixing that communications issue. So, what specifically do you think that Democrats want to hear?
Well, they want a better story to tell. And the issue that you get in election seasons is each side tries to tell a dominant story about what's happened over the last couple of years. And when you have a constellation of problems like President Biden is facing, Republicans are saying, look, the country's out of control, it's Joe Biden's fault, Democrats want a better answer. The problem is that in midterm elections, almost always the president's party loses in those elections. You've got very narrow majorities in the Congress. If you lose any ground in the Senate and just a little bit of ground in the House, Republicans are going to be in control. 26 out of the last 29 midterm elections, the party that is not holding the White House gains House seats. There is every reason to expect that to continue this year. And however President Biden or his aides talk about conditions in the country, it's very difficult to see anything they can do